once had a teacher, the teacher of teachers. He changed the world for the better and made us better creatures. Oh Allah, we've shamed ourselves, we've strayed from Al-Mu'allim. Surely we've wronged ourselves, what will we say in front of it? Mu'allim.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد المبعوث بالحق رحمة للعالمين وعلى آله وصحابته ينابيع العلوم والحكم ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. My brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu. Today's topic is gender and equality in Islam. Actually, this topic is inspired by a discussion I had with a Muslim American woman. We had a very lengthy discussion with her over the internet about whether Islam recognizes a woman as a man when it comes to equality, and whether Islam gives equal right to men and women. And my question is, as maybe predicted, is yes, actually Islam does that, which she disagrees in some points and had some serious misconceptions over some other issues. So this issue, we are discussing it today because it raises a lot of discussions in some quarters among Muslims and non-Muslims. In fact, some people are even trying to accuse Islam of not giving equal right to women as it gives to men. But for us to do justice to Islam, we need to do some contextual analysis of what Islam is, how Islam came about, and what was the situation of women when Islam came. Because Islam definitely is not the first to set the way man should relate to woman, and it's not the first system to divide how rights should be given to people. Some other systems came before him, and Islam came and made some corrections. Islam came in Arabia in the 7th century after Jesus. When Islam came, what was the condition like? What was the culture? What was the general view of people about women? Let's talk first about the Arabian culture. Quran narrated to us what used to happen. وَإِذَا بُشِّرَ أَحَدُهُمْ بِالْأُنْثَى ذل وجهه مسودا وهو كظيم يتوارى من القوم من سوء ما بشر به أيمسكه على هون أم يدسه في التراب. This is a very pictorial description of what used to happen in the Arabia in those days in the 7th century. When a person is given a glad tidings that, look, your wife has given birth, the first question is naturally, what is the sex of the baby? Boy or a girl? If it is a girl, he will immediately go back home and hide himself for days. He would never come out of his house because he's so ashamed of himself. He doesn't want to have an eye contact with anybody. Why? Because his wife has given birth to a baby girl. That was the impression then. Nobody wants to have a baby girl. They always want to have a baby boy. And they are so ashamed of themselves. In a situation like this, do you think there's anything like discussing equal rights? No. In fact, a baby girl then was not considered as a human being. She was considered as a property. Even as a property, it is a kind of castigated property. The property that you're not so proud of. It's just like when you have, in nowadays, when you have a bar, you are selling beer in an Islamic community. You would definitely be ashamed of yourself for people to know that you have a bar, you're selling beer, you're selling alcohol. It's just like that. You have a property, you are earning some money out of that property, but you are not so proud of what you do. You are not so proud of yourself. You are not so proud of your profession. You are not so proud of that property that you have. That is the situation in the Arabia when Islam came. woman was not recognized as a human being. She was recognized as a property. I'll give you another example. If a person dies in the Arabia, then his wife would not inherit him. Not just that, she is part of the properties that would be inherited by some of his brothers or some of his sons. The wife is part of the heritage that he left, and she will be inherited instead of her inheriting anything. Why? Because she was not considered but a property, and just a property. And when a person, going back to our first example, his wife gives birth to a baby girl, he will hide himself for some days, and after he starts coming out, he will start coming out and mingling with people because he has been able to decide what to do with that baby. Do you know what that is? He would decide to bury the baby alive. Why? Because they think this baby girl, all she could contribute to the family is shame. She just grow up and maybe engage in some unholy acts, fornications and things like this, and maybe bring a baby without a father, and this is a great shame. And because they used to engage one another through tribal conflicts, they think it's because they have a large number of girls in the family, it will be very easy for the other tribe to defeat them. What if they capture all the girls, wives and daughters? They would definitely submit to be able to regain back their daughters and wives, and that will make them submissive, and the battle will be against them and will be defeated. So they don't want to have many girls in a family. They try as much as they can to have as low number of girls as possible. Still give you another scenario. How is the sexual relationship like between men and women in the Arabia of the 7th century? A girl, she's known, her family known and everything, and not as if she is a prostitute or something, no. As narrated by Aisha radiallahu anha. A girl would just put a flag, and by that flag, she is sending an invitation to many different men to come and have sexual engagement with her. They'll come and have sex with her, like 10 of them, 15 of them, 8 of them. I mean, the bottom line is that large number of men will come and have sex with the same girl, and this is being committed publicly. Once she becomes pregnant, she will abstain from all of them until she gives birth. After giving the birth, what does she do? She calls them, and all of them will have to come and gather. She will not look at them, okay, you had sex with me, you had sex, but it's not your son, it is the son of the person she loves the most. She just professes that this baby is the son of this particular person, and he accepts it. And that's it. Nobody frowns about that. If you have a wife in the Arabia of those days, it is perfectly in order, perfectly allowed in the Arabia of those days, that if you have somebody that you so much admire because that person is brave, that person is a hero, that person is extraordinarily intelligent, and you want to have a son like him, all you have to do is very simple. Send your wife to him. They call it al-istibda. You just send your wife to him until she becomes pregnant, then she comes back to you. Nobody frowns at that. Everybody think it's okay then. That was what woman was when Islam came. When Islam first came, everything was changed. It is from the Prophet ﷺ that we've had for the first time النساء شقائق الرجال. Women are just the other side of the man, or women are just the full biological brothers or sisters of men. They are not your property. They are not your property that you are not so much proud of. You can't bury her alive. وَإِذَا الْمَوْءُودَةُ سُئِلَتْ بِأَيِّ ذَنْبٍ قُتِلَتْ. It is from the Prophet. We've heard for the first time that in the hereafter, all those souls buried alive will be asked, what did you commit for you to be buried alive? And they will answer to God, we've committed nothing. Meaning that the person who buries his daughter alive will be punished for doing that. It is for the first time that the Arabian society were brought back to its consciousness. Oh, wait a minute. These things we've been doing for ages is wrong. Yes, it was wrong, and it's still wrong. So for the first time, Islam recognized woman as a human being, and she became equal to man. When Islam came, men and women are fighting together, struggling together to be on the top of the list of the best Muslims. You know what? The first blood ever shed in Islam was a blood of a woman, was not a blood of a man. Yasir. She was the first martyr in the history of Islam, not man. The first person ever to accept Islam was a woman, Sayyida Khadija radiallahu anha. The person with the highest number of hadiths from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was also a woman, Aisha radiallahu anha, if not for the many hadiths of Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu. So you see, Islam came and changed everything about a woman. Until the 18th century, a conference was held in France to determine whether a woman is really an equal human being or not. Something that has been established by Islam a millennium and 4 centuries ago. But until the 18th century, Europe is still struggling with this fact, whether we should really accept a woman as a human being or not. So actually, if we go through the history, we will realize that the fact that woman was not recognized as human being was not just a peculiar phenomenon in the Arabia. No. It was a universal phenomenon throughout the world in that episode of time, that period of time, and down to the 18th century when Europe decided to agree that yes, let's accept women as an equal human being. So Islam has always been the first. But the problem we used to have is in the contemporary Muslim women being deceived by some of the women and men that call themselves feminists, struggling for the rights of women. That is what feminism is all about. Feminism is always kind of self-assigned the responsibility of taking the rights of women from those who denied them their right and give them their right back to them. And they think Islam is one of those systems that deny women their rights. We tell them that it's because they don't know the history and because they don't know what Islam did to women. Islam actually liberated women. Islam liberated women. They may mention some facts, especially in the Holy Quran, that look, Islam said, الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا من أموالهم. For example, men are to stand for women. Why? Because Allah, out of His will, made some of you better than others. And the other part of the reason is because they are the ones who take care of the women financially. They use this as an evidence that Islam denies women their equal right. Islam doesn't give equal right to women with men. We tell them no. Maybe it's because they have problem understanding the Arabic language of this Quranic verse. Quran didn't say that men are better than women. No. He said that they should stand for women. What does that mean? It simply means that there is a responsibility. Who is to take that responsibility? Simple. We are not, when we say men should stand for women, the context of the verse tells you that the Quranic verse in this context is talking about life outside home. And life outside home, men are more expert, are more familiar with what is going on in the street, what is going on outside in the bank, financial transactions and things like this. So they should stand for women. But if you go back to other Islamic texts and interpret them in their right context, you realize that Islam is talking about distribution of duty based on expertise and based on what you are more familiar with. كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. الزوجة مسؤول، المرأة راعية في بيتها وهي مسؤولة عن رعيتها. The Prophet said, each and every one of you among you is just like a shepherd. And God will ask you to give account of the way you've treated your cattle. Woman is a shepherd in her home, and Allah will ask her to give account of the way she has taken care of the home. Okay, let's define home. What is home? The building? No. You can't tell me that a building that we call house is the home. No. There has to be the building, there has to be the family residing in the building, and there has to be maybe the sources of income in that building, and the way everything is fused together to be able to say, yes, we have a family staying here, and this place that our family stay in is the home, which means including the father of that family. It's just a minute part of that home. So woman in that house is responsible, and she's the one to take care of the husband. In case her father used to live together with them, he is under her responsibility in that house. So it's just a simple fact of distribution of duty. Like I said in the beginning, this lecture is stimulated by the discussion I had with a woman who thinks that Islam doesn't give equal right to men and women. She asked me this question. She said, what do you say about witness that Allah said, فإن لم يكن رجلان فرجل وامرأتان ممن ترضون من الشهداء ينتدل إحداهما فتذكر إحداهما الأخرى. Why should Allah said that when it comes to giving witness, one man and two women, which means a man stand in place of two women. Women is like half. I said no. Why Allah said so? Because it has to do with financial transaction. In the financial transaction, men are more aware of the things that are going on. Consider, for example, when it comes to issues of virginity, for example. If, for example, in the books of Islamic jurisprudence, if, for example, a person, Mr. A, got married to woman B, and eventually they got divorced. And after the divorce, he's supposed to give her the mahar if he had an intercourse with her, and half of it if he didn't. Okay, now we want to know whether he had an intercourse with her or not. She said he had. He said no. We have 100 women giving witness that yes, actually he did, and 100 men, for example, saying actually he did not, but one woman said no, he did. Which of the witnesses is more powerful here? According to the Islamic jurisprudential books, that witness of one woman overweighed the witness of 100 men, or even if they are more than 100, because she has more expertise in issues to do with virginity. So it's just a simple fact of sharing responsibilities according to expertise. And This expertise, because Allah created all of us, He knows better than we do about ourselves. So this expertise are not just about you go to school, you specialize in communications, you go to school, you specialize in finances. No. It has to do with the basic instinct of human being, which begins from the physiological composition of what you are. You are a woman. There are some special physiological composition of who you are. I'm a man. There are some special and basic physiological compositions of who am I. And that determines our responsibilities from the very, very beginning. She said she didn't believe so because that can't hold any water. Why should that be so? Our physiological composition has nothing to do with who we are. I said they do. They do. Why is it that I cannot bear a baby in my stomach and give birth? I can't do that. But you can do that. Why is it that every month I don't have any discharge that will stop me from praying, and you do that? So we really have this basic instinctual difference that begins from our physiological composition. And this is the reason why Allah gave each and every one of us the responsibility that is best fit for us based on who we are. Allah is just, and no one can be more just than Allah. Thank you very much for listening and watching and being with us in this lecture until we meet in the subsequent lecture. But before then, we may like to answer some questions. Thank you.
Surely we've wronged ourselves. What will we say in front of it? Mu'allim.
Okay, the first question is talking about inheritance. Why is it that there is no equality in inheritance? This is a very, very generic and vague statement. And that is the way all the times they use it and raise some issues. And actually, it's because the statement is vague and generic. This is the reason why they have been able to deceive many people with that. Okay, let's start. Woman inherits half of what man inherits in the inheritance in Islam. Where and how? That is the question that I should ask you. That is when they both are children of the deceased. Okay, what if she's a mother? What does she inherit? And what does her husband, the father of the deceased, inherit? What if she is a sister? What does she inherit? She's a full biological sister. What does she inherit? And what half biological sister, a biological brother inherits? You see, they don't really bring the whole picture of Islamic inheritance. And this is what caused the problem. Woman doesn't just come as a daughter. She comes as a daughter. Islam has taken very good care of that. She comes as a mother. Islam has taken very good care of that. She comes as a sister. Islam has taken very good care of that. And so on and so forth. But because they bring a very, very selective part of the picture, it creates some sense of confusion which does not exist actually. So when she comes as a daughter, the inheritance is half of that of a son, because the son has more responsibilities than she does, which is self-explained in the other aspects of the inheritance itself. So I recommend we go back and read what Islamic inheritance is all about and have the whole picture before we ask this kind of questions. Thank you. And the second question is about marriage, polygamy. Maybe he's talking about polygamy. Okay, what about that? One woman marrying 10 men. What do you think about that? It happens in the Arabia, in the pre-Islamic history, and it still happens in the West today. They call it polyandry. It still happens in the West today. But this question has been taken care of by demography of the world. Most of the countries of the world, women nearly outweigh the number of men. They are nearly double the number of the men. By marrying one, the idea of one man to one woman is highly personalized and privatized aspect of marriage. When you're thinking in that aspect, in that respect, it's like you are trying to solve your personal problem. You are not looking at the problem from the societal perspective. At the end, you only solve your personal problem without taking care of the issue of the society, because we have more women than men. This is one. And the second thing is that even if you look at the life expectancy in the whole world, the life expectancy of women is higher than the life expectancy of men, which means men would die faster. We are going to have more number of women. Look at the people dying in conflicts and wars. Most of them are men. Most of the people dying in car accidents, men. So the chances are that we always have the number of women outweighing the number of men. So Islam, by allowing polygamy, is like Islam is preferring a solution for the whole society, not for you as an individual, not for her as an individual, not for you as an individual, not for her as an individual. And maybe you can have a discussion with many women. They will tell you that when it comes to sexual urgent, sexual intercourse, women are not selective. Women are naturally created to be satisfied by only one man, which is entirely different in the case of a man. He is naturally created to have sexual urge towards different women. And Allah is also answering to that by allowing him to have polygamy. This is my answer to that. Thank you very much.
Surely we've wronged ourselves. What will we say in front of it?
The first question says, what is the meaning of the prophetic tradition that says Al-mar'atu naqisatu ad-din wal-aql, or antunna naqisatu dinin wa aql, as it comes in the hadith? You are deficient in intellect and you are deficient in the way you perform your religion. What is the meaning of that? It looks like Islam gives preference to men and women. Not really. Not really. Naqisatu dinin wa aql. Let's start with naqisatu din. They are deficient in the way they perform their religion. It's simply talking about menstruation. They have some periods that they don't pray, whereas men don't have that. You have to pray all through the month. But women, they are given break. When they are within their menstruation, they are given break. They don't pray in that time. It doesn't mean that men will be rewarded more when they perform the same kind of duty towards Allah. Like maybe I'm inclined to think that this idea, this kind of interpretation, came from the Western world, because they are the ones who had the idea of women will be given less even if they perform the same job with men. This has been like that for centuries in Europe until 18th and 19th century. It is like that. You will be employed in the same job in the West, especially in Europe. Men and women, the same job, the same responsibilities, the same certificate and the same requirements, but men will be paid more and women will be paid less. So I'm inclined to assume that this kind of interpretation to this hadith came from that background. Because if you don't have that background, you don't even think of Allah as so unjust to reward men more than women when they perform the same duty. No, not at all. And the second aspect of the hadith is talking about al-aql, naqisatul aql. What does that mean? They are deficient in intellect. Okay, recently in the world of science, it is especially psychology, it is discovered that there's something called emotional intelligence. That is, apart from IQ, there's something called emotional intelligence, which means we have been wrong for centuries to assume that our brains are responsible and solely responsible for our intellectual capabilities. And this wrong assumption in the world of science is what gives that wrong interpretation to the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yes, they are deficient in quotient, intellectual quotient, but stronger in the emotional. And men are exactly opposite. Exactly opposite. If you think you will use this hadith to make women less preferential to Islam, the same thing applies to men. The naqisatul aql, mentally, I mean the brains are not performing as the hearts, just like the heart of men are not performing as the brains, just like that. So this falls back in the part of distribution of duty physiologically, just the way you are created. That's the way Allah created you, that you have a stronger heart than brains, and men have stronger brains than hearts. That's the way it works. And it is with this, mind you, this is actually a positive thing to women, not negative, because it's with this that a baby would piss on her clothes and she will still sing a lullaby for him. Because if the opposite is the case, as in the case of men, that would never happen. No baby will ever be raised. So it is actually a positive thing, not a negative thing, like many people used to think about it. Another question is talking about leadership. The leadership in Islam is divided into executive role and legislative role. In the executive role, that is what they call, starting from al-imamatul kubra. Women don't take that role in Islam. And this is the meaning of the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying, "Lan yufliha qawmun wallaw amrahum imra'atan." Wallaw means what? Means give the role of executive leadership to a woman. But in the other roles, women can perfectly participate equally with men. Why not executive? Because of those physiological deficiencies. And actually they are not deficiencies, they are physiological features, that she was not physiologically prepared to take care of those things. This is the reason she doesn't take executive chairs, but she takes the other ones. Thank you. My viewers, my brothers and sisters in Islam, thank you very much for viewing our program. Until we meet in the next lecture, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
صلى الله